In this video, we're going to break down the 4 different archetypes that relate to your identity. Once you accomplish that, then everything will change for you. The first type of archetype that a lot of people are, and most people are not even aware that there are identity archetypes. But once you go through this and you have this level of awareness, you're going to approach your life in a very different way. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself, which one of those archetypes are you? And which one of those archetypes do you want to be? That way we can bridge the gap from where you are to where you need to go. Because this might be the reason why you're not accomplishing your goal. Now, the first level, the first archetype is a victim archetype. That is the worst level that you could be at. Why? Because a victim is somebody who just complains and blames. And the trap of a victim is what? Is the fact that they're not in control. So they're in the lowest point of power. They're weak. They don't have any power. The reason I could share that with you is because I was in that position. See, when I went homeless after quitting my $2 trillion job, I started my first company, and then 12 months later, that company failed, and I ended up sleeping in my Toyota Prius. At that point in time, I was so crushed. I was so much in pain. I felt that the world owed me something. I felt like my family owed me something. I felt like my friends owed me a lot, and I was wondering for the longest time, I was so much in pain and anger. Why are they not supporting me? I'm doing this for us. And so I was stuck in a very victim mentality. And then I learned that what victims do is that they complain, they make excuses, and they justify the reason why they're not where they want to be. Now, I did that over a process of years that took place of me reading and consuming a lot. One book that I would recommend about this topic is Habits of a Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. When I was at that point in time, I blamed the world. And when you blame the world, what's the problem? The problem is that you don't have any control. See, if I say that I'm broke because I don't have X, guess who I give the power to? I give X the power. If you say that the reason why you can't start the business is because you don't have the capital, guess what you just did? You just justified your position. Yes, it's true that you don't have the capital, but guess what? You never needed the capital. You don't need the resources. You need to become resourceful. When I started my first business, I didn't have the capital. I had to raise about $150,000 to $200,000 from my family and friends in order to bring that idea into fruition. Victims always make excuses, they justify. And it is a very cunning thing. Sometimes we justify and we complain without even knowing that we're doing that. The reason why you might be making a lot of money right now. For you, compared to who? The question is, you're making a lot of money compared to who? Are you making $100,000, $200,000, maybe $300,000 a year, and you think you're making money? Well, if you hang around us, if you hang around my group of people, what you make in a year is what they make in a month. So you might think that you're doing well because you're doing well relative to your cousin Bobby. But if you hang around the right circle or a higher circle that makes a lot more, then you just end up becoming a little bit cute, right? So that's what happens. Now, the reason I bring that story is because sometimes we justify that, yes, I've done well, but in reality, you're still stuck in that victim archetype, because in actuality, you could do a lot more. The question that you have to ask yourself is, relative to my potential, in what areas of my life am I behaving just like a victim? You'd be surprised to find out where that victimhood poison is infecting you in your life. Now, the second archetype is when you become a hustler. I am a victim of this. I'm still a victim of this. I'm still fighting this. It took me a lot of time for me to get out of this, and I still work on changing this type of mentality. Most salespeople, they're always in the hustler's mentality. You know how to work. Good. Having good work ethic is not a bad thing. But if you think that working hard is going to make you wealthy, you are absolutely wrong. Working hard is going to cap your wealth. It's actually working hard as a skill set might end up hurting you, not benefiting you. You're probably never going to hear that from anywhere else, but I'm telling you this out of personal experience. Why? Because a hustler always compensates for other areas by working hard. Let me give you an example. Let's just say that you're somebody who's wanting to get fit. Now, your nutrition is not on point, so you say, well, I'm just going to put more time doing cardio. I'm just going to put more time at the gym. So you compensate for areas where you cut corners in by the fact that you know that you could work hard in a different area. Working hard is not going to make you wealthy. If you're somebody who's in sales and you think that you're just selling, I've been in that position. I've sold, and then I realized that I have so much time in the day that I cannot scale my income. So working hard was not the answer. It could get you so far. You can become rich with working hard, but hustling and thinking that just the hustle is going to take you there, that's not going to take you there. What you need is to graduate from being a hustler all the way to do what? All the way to becoming an operator. A lot of insurance agents, I'm talking to you. A lot of salespeople, I'm talking to you. You're wasting your time when you're selling one-on-one and you're not scaling, you're not building a team. You think that's the right thing to do because you're getting paid, but it's not the right thing to do. Why? Well, because you're leaving a lot of money on the table because you're not scaling your income. So yes, you could dial for 12 hours a day. Yes, you could do 1,000 dials a day. Kudos to you. That's cute, man. That's the question is, how much of your income are you making passively? If you're listening to this, and if I ask you to this, last month, take a look at your income. Maybe it was $10,000, maybe it was $30,000, maybe it was $50,000, maybe it was $100,000. Regardless of where you happen to be, what percentage of your income was passive? Let me ask that question one more time. Take a look at your paycheck last month, whatever that paycheck was. What percentage of your income was passive? Meaning, if you did not go to work, how much of that income would have still rolled in? And if the answer is zero, that 100% of your income came from your efforts, you're in trouble, my friend. You don't have a business. You don't have any leverage. You don't have an asset. You are a glorified, self-employed person. You don't have anything yet. What you need is you want to have income come in passively. The less that your income relies on you, the more wealthy that you will become. You could become rich by hustling. You're never going to become wealthy. So between rich and wealthy, which do you prefer, my friend? Well, in my case, I prefer wealthy. And if that's you, then you have to graduate from the hustler's archetype all the way up to what? All the way to the operator. An operator thinks very differently. An operator is not thinking about what? It's not thinking about them doing the work. They're thinking about building systems. They're thinking about building a structure that could print the money. It's different. It's not about them printing the money. It's about building and creating that printing machine. An entrepreneur is just like an engineer or a builder of a house. A builder of a house goes out and they build the house, but after they're gone, the house is there, right? The house is beautiful. The house functions. People would utilize from building the house, but the entrepreneur is a separate entity from building the house. When you become an operator, you're not about you doing the work. You're thinking about what can you delegate? How could you create a system whereby that system prints you money? Now, most people are self-employed. You might have heard this from Kiyosaki, the cash flow quadrant. You begin as an employee, then you go from an employee to becoming self-employed, and then you go from self-employed to becoming a business owner. There's a big difference between self-employed and business owner. Self-employed relies on you. Self-employed, if you make, let's just say you're making $30,000 a month. You think you're a baller now, right? You think you're making $50,000 a month. You're a baller now. $50,000 a month as a self-employed person, when you're just producing, when you're selling life insurance policies, when you're selling real estate, all my pest control guys, all my solar guys, you're selling, yes, you have a fat paycheck, you think that's cool? Let me ask you a question. If I took you out of that equation, how much of that paycheck is left? If the answer is zero, you think it's impressive? It's not even at all impressive. If I took you out of that equation, if you're making, let's just say $40,000 a month, you know what? I'll be generous. Let's just say you're making $50,000 a month, okay? You're making $50,000 a month. If I took you out of that equation, 50 minus you equals what? If that equals zero, you're in trouble, bro. You're just self-employed. You want to become a business owner. What's a business owner? Who's a business owner? A business owner is someone who understands systems. And what are systems? It's what saves you time, energy, and money. The business owner thinks very differently. If you're making $50,000 as a business owner, 50 minus you equals what if you're a business owner? $50,000 a month minus you, if you're a business owner, equals $50,000. In your case, it was zero, but for a business owner, it was the exact same number. Why? Because it's the system that they developed. It's the company, it's the asset that generates the 50K, not their personal effort. It's a very different mentality. Now, if you follow the Kiyosaki framework, business owners usually have 500 employees plus, and they make 10 million plus in terms of a business. That's when you really cross the path from cross the threshold from being a self-employed person to a business owner. Then you graduate from there, obviously, to become an investor. That is the cash flow quadrant. You guys can read more about that following Kiyosaki's book. But going back to the main topic, the operator is that business owner. The operator mentality does not think in terms of them. They think in terms of building the company. But that's still not enough. Why? Because above the operator is what is called the king or the queen, the creator. The creator operates even at a higher level than what the operator does. Why? Because the creator is not limited by systems. See, an entrepreneur could still be limited. You can still have a system, but you're limited in your thinking, right? You're not maximizing your potential. A creator does not view anything as having limitation. The operator sometimes still operates in a level of scarcity. They're still chained up by a prison of their own creation. A king and a queen is somebody that breaks free from that. Is someone who's in a state of abundance. Someone that does not take a look at limits. Someone who's not held back by fear. That's when you graduate from being an operator to a king or a queen. That's when you become the creator. When you reach that type of level, life becomes very interesting because you don't see any type of limitation. One of my favorite quotes ever is, when you become fearless, life becomes limitless. Have you ever lived a limitless life? Have you ever felt what it means to live in a limitless state of mind? Trust me, when you get there, that tells you that you have no fear. When you become fearless, life becomes limitless. So if you want to live a free life, get rid of the what? Get rid of the fear. So these are the 4 archetypes. Like I said, number 1 is a victim archetype. Number 2 is a hustler archetype. Number 3 is a operator archetype. And what you want is to become a king and creator. So going back to the first question, which one of those archetypes are you? If you were to take a self-assessment and ask yourself, which one of those applies to me? Am I the victim? Am I the hustler? Am I the operator? Or am I the creator? Ask yourself this question, and then which one would you like to be? If the answer is that you want to graduate from this level to this level, if you're a hustler and you want to become an operator, your next step is for you to develop systems. If you're a victim and you think in limitation and you're constantly in scarcity and you blame the world and you constantly make excuses, then changing that mentality is your first step. If you're an operator and you know that you're doing well, but you just know that there's a lot more to accomplish, you just can't get yourself to accomplish that, that means you live in a level of scarcity and you have to operate from a level of abundance. So these are the 4 archetypes. Ask yourself which one applies to you and how and where do you want to be, then start bridging the gap between that. And once you do that, watch the results in your life change. Now, that being said, if you're getting some value from this, I want you to subscribe to the channel and share this with a friend of yours that needs to hear the exact same message, and stay tuned for some more content like this. Let's go.